Why are men like mascara? Because they usually run at the first sign of emotion. Get it? It's funny because it's sexist. Anyways, welcome to Gender Mythbusters. My name's Mari, and we're going to talk about why men and women are really not that different. So the first video we talked about some of the truths about men and women and how we're actually pretty similar. And in the second video, we talked about how the world really doesn't want us to believe that, and how a lot of the stuff that we see in the media furthers tons of gender stereotypes and hurtful gender norms. So I figured in this video, we would talk about what we can do about it. Yeah! Hopefully by this point, your eyes have been opened a bit wider to the reality that men and women really aren't as different as we're treated that we are, and it goes even deeper than you probably think. Before we can talk about how to fix these issues, we should probably talk about some of the ways that these show up long term. A lot of studies have shown that negative gendered messages can affect performance in a ton of different categories. A super prevalent one is girls' achievement in pretty much everything. Girls tend to do worse in sports after being told that girls tend to do worse at sports. Girls have been found to perform worse at math after being told that girls tend to be worse at math. Imagine going up to bat on the baseball field and a little voice whispers in your ear, you know, in general, girls aren't really as good at baseball as boys are. Are you gonna hit a home run after that? Generally, it's not this obvious, right? There isn't someone whispering in our ear at all times, hey, you're not actually that good at this. Boys are actually better. It's little slivers of this throughout our lives that make it harder to get rid of those stereotypes. And this isn't just a problem for women. The internalization of masculinity can be harmful to boys and stunt them emotionally as well. Studies have shown that boys feel a really strong pull to adhere to masculinity, and therefore they hide a lot of their feelings and emotions, and they have a lot of worse outcomes, specifically in things like math. Even though there's a widely held belief that boys are better than girls at math, and even though the truth is that there's really no difference at all, by the time boys and girls are in high school, and by the time they're going off to college, boys are getting worse grades than women are at math. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that they don't feel like it's manly enough to ask for help when they really need it. So they fall below the curve. These things together just lead to a lot of problems for boys and girls that really don't need to be there. Another really prevalent issue in today's society involving gender is looks for women. There's a book called More Than a Body, and if you haven't heard about it and you haven't read it, you need to get your hands on this book. It talks about the ways that girls are treated so slightly differently from a very young age, and leads them to believe that they're basically only valued for their looks. Ideas like this that give girls the idea that they're worse at math, they're worse at sports, when that's not even true. Even nonverbal gestures can alert a child to gender norms, like I talked about with TV. We might think on the outside that what we're watching and taking in doesn't really make a difference for us, but those things are sinking under the surface, called the gender schema theory. And this happens for really young kids. If they think that gender is important, if they're told over and over again that gender is important, that boys like blue and girls like pink, and boys like math and girls like dress up, then they're going to think that gender is a huge deal And then they're going to categorize themselves into these groups on their own. The good news is that kids can only internalize what is there, which basically means that if you make gender a really big deal, then kids are going to make gender a really big deal. And if you make gender something that's there but doesn't define you, they're going to do the same thing. It's all part of the gender schema theory. If they don't feel like their gender defines them, then they're going to find much more value in what they really like and what their true personality is, and they'll have much more options and avenues to take in the future. Honestly, the best thing that we can do is to get educated. I want you to look around at the way that you are talking to the children in your lives. What do you want to say? How do you want to treat them? Were you going to tell them that they look so beautiful today? Maybe ask them what they did. Ask them what they learned. Instead of focusing on the way they look, focus on what they know and what they're learning and how they can improve on their abilities. Look, the moral of the story is that the two genders are really quite similar. So much of what we think are innate, inherent differences that define men and women are almost completely socialized, like blue and pink. Making these things to be really big noticeable things can lead to a divide that doesn't need to be there and leads men and women to face unique, hurtful challenges that they wouldn't need to face otherwise. And we can recognize that we're all human, and it's really more about our personalities than it is about how long our hair is or how much we like pink. Making these little changes in our lives will help to minimize something that our society has made a really big issue. So thank you for coming to Gender Mythbusters. I hope you learned a lot about the truth about genders, and I hope you will be able to look around with a more critical eye. Woohoo!